welcome everybody. We're going to get started here. We'll continue to let people into the room. Just want to make sure that you're aware that we'll have plenty of time at the end of this for Q&A. Questions are always welcome. If you have something as we're going, you can put it in the chat versus the Q&A because that way we see it. And we're going to get started here on our presentation. Just make sure we can see the screen. We good?
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about Horizon Apartments, a 204 apartment community in San Antonio, Texas. And this is a 506C offering that is available to accredited investors only. Tonight we're going to do the, did it change slides? I'll make sure. Did it change to the agenda?
You're on the agenda
Awesome.
slide.
Okay, perfect. So tonight we're going to do executive summary, talk about the sponsorship team, the property and market overview, our business plan, our underwriting, and how to invest. All right, everybody, in the 30 seconds, I'm going to leave this slide up. You have to memorize it. Now, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that investing has its risks. And you need to understand the risks of investing. You need to understand what you're putting your money into and take your time to read it. And if you want to get any outside counsel on accountants or lawyers, you are free to do so. And we'll do our best to answer our questions for everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about the sponsorship team. So on the left, we have the Texas Valley Group. We have two Jose's. The top one is known affectionately as Nacho and Vinny, who are all part of the Texas Valley Group. And on the right-hand side, you have Sanjay, who I'm going to turn the presentation over to in a little bit, Shirar, and Mike, who's also with us tonight. And then myself and Jasmine and Maria are part of the investment team, and Jasmine's with us tonight. So a little bit about the team, that they've done 20 deals to date, 7 full cycle, have 3,169 units under management, about 252 million in assets. And we own assets in Colorado, Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas. And also on this slide, you'll see some of the greater team, Tom, Janae, and Amber, and they're both on the call tonight with us as well. And then these are some of our co-sponsors, Liz and Barbie, Ronald and Mary Jane Lou, and Tarek and Rochelle. So if you've been brought to the call by them, they would be the sponsor that you would work through to do it. So we're going to go into the executive summary, and I'm going to turn it over to Sanjay.
Thank you, Trevor. And just a couple more things to add from a sponsor team perspective. So TVG Group has local properties in San Antonio. They have the market knowledge, and we will talk about the property management company. They have local around 3,000 doors within San Antonio that they operate. Amber, Janae that you saw, Liz and Barbie, they're based out of Austin, 1 hour away from the property. Trevor has invested, is a GP on a deal that is literally 5 minutes from this deal. In fact, earlier this year, when the deal came to our radar, Trevor, Amber, Janae, Liz were the one Liz and Barbie, who were the one visited the property initially to get the initial site. So we've got a experienced sponsor team, along with the local presence, local market knowledge, and connections and network. So we really feel good about the overall presence in the market for us. So why we love this deal? It's San Antonio is a strong market, submarket within San Antonio. The northeast corner is a very strong submarket, so we really like that area. And we'll talk about that in a second also. We have a great basis with an assumable loan, so approximately 82,000 per door. And we're assuming a loan, Fannie Mae agency loan at 3.78% fixed rate until end of 2031 maturity date. So So we have plenty of time on the loan itself, and we have a supplemental on top that has been approved. So we'll talk about that as we go into the deal detail. So from a value add perspective, current owner has done a great job on the units. All the units have tile flooring, so that is a huge plus from ongoing term for the units. And there are only just under 30 units left from a upgrade for that market perspective. So we plan on continuing doing that. A few exterior things, a few other rent increase, continue to implement the additional revenue that the current seller has done a great job of implementing those. As we talked about the team, we have strong presence in the market as well as experience, and sub-market, strong market, as we will see within minutes of this. So as we look at all of these, why we love this deal, the question always comes up, hey, why wouldn't the seller continue? There is a loan option, a good loan option. Why wouldn't the seller continue to operate this? And seller has owned this property for a few years, and it's a challenging market. It's a Class C property in a Class C. We think it's gentrifying it and tending towards C plus location. But seller is really looking to sell this and take a break, focus on the family. From that perspective, so great timing for any new operator to come in and take over that loan and continue the good work that seller has done. So next slide, Trevor. So just the high-level summary for the deal. Our purchase price is $16.9 million. It's a Class C building in a C plus gentrifying location. Our purchase price is under $100 per square foot, so $95 per square foot. We're raising $6.6 million in total equity, portion of which is towards the capex, the down payment, and then some reserves and the fees that are there. So with that, we're projecting a 7 to 8% average cash on cash return. Of course, the first year is stabilization year, so it'll be a little lower, but after that, we expect to provide cash flow 7 to 8%. Over the life of the deal, over a 5-year hold period, we are projecting an 18% IRR and a 2.1x multiple, which we will talk in a little detail on this. Minimum investment, we have it at $50,000, but we have some flexibility. So whatever situation, whatever you have, please feel free to reach out to us and talk to one of us whenever you have any questions. Next slide, Trevor. So a property overview, it's 204 units, a total of 177,000, just under 178,000 square feet. It's a garden style multifamily. At the time of our contract, it was 96.6% occupied. It's built in 1974, and then, of course, a lot of work has been done on the property since then. Here's a picture of the property, one of the 2 pools that are on the property. So nice courtyard there with the building, the garden style surrounded by it. We really have a lot of space at the property. So, we gives us the options to, do things for the tenants and kind of keep up and do those things. Next slide. So from a location perspective, as we were talking about earlier, this property highlighted in the yellow right there where Trevor is pointing off of I-35. There are quite a few H-E-B distribution centers, Amazon centers, and on the top side of this, you see a few of the retail stores, Frito-Lay, Pepsi, distribution centers are there. So really a lot of core blue-collar workforce housing and a lot of demand for that. And it's a great access through I-35 410, as you see on the top left corner, the 410 access, surrounded by major employers and proximity to the international airport. Next slide. So from a value add perspective, we have on the left, the internal interior upgrade. So continuing on those 28 remaining classic units, which is really brushed nickel hardware, light fixtures, black or stainless steel appliances, some water conservation things, fresh paint on the whole apartment, and cosmetic improvement, a little backsplash in the kitchen, are the options that we have there from an interior perspective. We have a few empty spaces that we can convert into a new unit. So office is quite big currently, so potentially converting that into a rentable unit. Other empty spaces like a clubhouse and other things, potentially converting into a rentable spaces. From exterior perspective, it's a Class C property, so there is some deferred maintenance from a roof, siding, patio, parking lot, some fencing that we have a need to, so we will take care of that, which will and kind of lead to the, combined with the landscape, the curbside appeal for the property, increase the curbside appeal, and continue to market to the nearby all these employers, which will kind of give us that increase on the rent for it. In addition, we have so much space that we have an option to add some storage unit, parcel lockers, etc. on the property. Of course, we will have to do some permitting with the city and take care of these initial deferred maintenance requirements, which are also lender, the Fannie Mae requirement to complete for us. So, but we really think this will continue to push our net operating income, NOI, as a result of these. Next slide. So here are some pictures of the units. As you can see, all the units have floored, which is tile, which is a really big help on keeping the expenses low for us. And black stainless steel, black appliances in the kitchen, the fixtures in the bathroom, a lot of the bathroom surrounds are tile, again, helps us from keeping the expenses lower. Next slide. So some of the additional revenue stream, so the bottom two option, the technology package and the parking, the QR code for overnight stays. Seller has already implemented these, so these are in place. Technology package is just we continue to roll it out to all the units as the leases come up for renewal. And the parking, the reserve parking, we continue to roll it out and increase the revenue on those. So when we get to the underwriting and performa, you will see other income increase from those two, mainly from those two avenues. And again, we have an option to add some storage because of the space that we have available, and package lockers potentially for additional revenue. Next slide. So from a business plan perspective, our plan is, from day one, implement a third-party property management company. So United Apartments Group is the property management group that we have selected. So, and they have other properties they manage in the areas, have the vendors, the contacts. So we expect to have better marketing, documentation, the leases, and stay tight on the tenants from a collection perspective, and do continuous event to kind of keep up the morale of the property high. And as we bring that in from day one, implement the revenue initiatives. So rent increases, those continue. The tech package and parking lot, those will continue. In parallel to those additional revenue initiatives, we have the reduction in expense. So water conservation program, we have quotes from the water conservation companies showing that there is definitely potential for us to save on water costs. exterior LED lighting, as well as the electricity contract that we have. We know we will have a 7 to 8% reduction in cost on that contract that has already been in place. And of course, the maintenance turn with the availability of the vendors to make sure the units are not staying vacant for any period of time. And as we implement these, improve the, I see there's a question about the depreciation. We are going into the 2024. So it's a 60% in 2024. The bonus depreciation reduces to 60% of the available accelerated that we can do. But we will talk about the depreciation in a second here. If you need to drop off, we will have the recording and you will have that there. But I think with the 2024, it's about just under around 40-45% bonus that we have in year one. But as we do the income initiatives and the reduction in expenses, increasing the curb appeal to attract, more tenants, more traffic, and then continue the rehab and the turn as the tenants move out, and then add the units over the 2 to 3 year period, the new units, and then continue to work on when is an ideal time for the sale of the property. So next slide. So we have some of the underwriting details. Next slide. Here, just at a high level, we do have a 7% preferred return. Thank you, Trevor, on that top left corner for the LP investors. We are projecting 18% IRR, 7 to 8% cash flow, and 2.1x equity multiple. If you
This is your first time?
If you don't understand the difference in those three metrics, IRR, average cash flow, and equity multiple, please raise your hand and we'll discuss that towards the end. Also, we do have a 70-30 split between the LPs and GPs, but that 30% split for GPs from the operational cash flow only kicks in after the 7% preferred return is met. So it's a good protection for the LPs. And our purchase cap rate is 6.5%, just because of the market cycle where we are with interest rates and everything else. But our exit cap assumption in our model is a 6%. With the interest rate lowering, we do expect the cap rates to start to drop down again and would have that. So again, a whole period of 5 years. This table at the bottom kind of shows our projected cash flows. So in year 0, if a sample investment of 100,000, year 1, that capital account of 100,000 is maintained, but we expect from the operation to distribute about a little over 5% in year 1, and then a little over 7%, and then improving above 8% in the following 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th year. And if we were to exit in year 5, based on that 6% exit cap rate and the NOI increases, approximately an additional 71,000 to the LP investors. Again, all of these returns are after the 7% preferred return is met, and the 70-30 split is effectively there. So these are the return that we're projecting. We are talking to a couple pref investors, pref equity groups. So if we end up bringing a pref equity group, then these projections should only be better than what we have here. We will not bring a pref equity if we see any total return and the IRR impact on these deals. Thank you, Trevor. Next slide. So we like to be very transparent on all the fees that the GPs and the sponsors will be making. So this slide lays out all the fees and the potential fees that we could charge. So from a sponsor carry perspective, this 30%, the 70-30 split is there. But again, that 30% kicks in after the 7% pref is met. And after that, the 70-30 split on the operational cash flow. At the time of the sale, first, 100% of the investor capital is returned before 70-30 split kicks in again. So we always make sure the capital is preserved for the LP investors. Asset management fee, we do have a 2% asset management fees, and this is a 2% of the monthly gross rent collection. So this really, you know, pays for our expenses to kind of keep the asset going. You know, some of the accounting at the GP level, of course, the project pays for the property taxes and preparation and all that. So we do have that 2% baked into the model. We do have an acquisition fee of 2% upfront. So and this is upon successful closing that gets distributed out to the sponsorship team. At the time of exit, we do have a 1.5% fee, disposition fee. And again, that really incentivizes us as sponsors to get the highest possible sale because that 1.5% really adds up. We have about just under 1.2 million in total capex that we're budgeting for this project. So, you know, if we end up needing a project manager on site, at least for the initial six months or 12 months, then, you know, we may have that 5% project management fee off the capex amount that gets spent. But as soon as the capex is complete, you know, this fee would go away. But we're going to try to do this in-house, and we may need a project manager. In that case, we may charge that capex project management fees. Next slide, Trevor. So from a sources and uses perspective, on the left-hand side, you know, our purchase price is 16.9 million. Our loan assumption is 10.16, approximately 10.16 million. And a supplemental loan that has been approved, initial approval by Fannie Mae, is a little over 2.5 million. So that leaves a down payment for us of about around 4 million, and then a capex of 1.164 million. Closing costs, acquisition fee, 591,000. And then a reserve of 668,000, just to make sure we have enough cash during the operation of the property, and that adds up to a total of 6.6 million of the 6.6 million that we are raising. On the right hand side, so the base loan that we are assuming, originally it was a 75% LTV, but of course, based on our purchase and the market value of the property, we have a room for supplemental. So we have approximately 2.574 of the supplemental loan. All the terms for the supplemental loan are same as our underlying loan, except the interest rate. So on the underlying loan that we're assuming 3.78%, and we have about 8 years remaining on the loan term. And so the supplemental loan have similar term of 8 years remaining on the loan, but our interest rate has been, this was 8.24 was our original estimate that was given, but the final quote that we got was it's 8.51, so slightly higher than this 8.24%. So those are our loan, so very secure from a loan perspective. So yeah, next slides, Trevor, thank you. This is our detailed underwriting, and Amber, who I mentioned earlier, is one of the part of the sponsorship team, local in Austin, only an hour away, loves to talk about this slide. So Amber, if you're still good, you want to talk about this slide?
Sure. Thanks, Sanjay, and thanks everybody for joining us during this holiday break to take a look at this investment. We think it's a really good one. I do love this slide because it's basically a numerical picture of how we plan on making this deal, work. So if you, just to kind of get your bearings, if you haven't seen one of these before or not familiar with this in this format, on the very left hand side you have you have different categories: annual rent escalator, expense, income expenses. So those are kind of all of the things we're going to look at. And then the next row is a T12. So that's the previous year's numbers from the seller. And then year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 going across the page are our projections for what we're going to do. So let's start off with the rents. So the average rent for the T12 was $11.23 for the previous year. And I was just kind of scrolling through some of the numbers that we've gotten since we did this pro forma, and the numbers are already climbing. So we're projected to get an average rent of $11.90 per unit in year 1. And we're, if not halfway there already, we're inching up on already being at halfway to that without even having taken property over yet. Just looking at the numbers that have come in. So that's awesome to see. And then it's a conservative 5% bump year 2, which we think is very achievable with all the efficiencies that we're going to gain with and the reductions that Sanjay's talked about in expenses earlier in this presentation. And then year 3, 4, and 5 is a conservative 3% rent growth, which I personally think is we may see some higher things towards some higher rent growths towards the end of this deal. But I don't want to digress too much. We've kept that conservative. If you look at the vacancy, let's see here, vacancy was about, let's see, 171 for the previous year. We've bumped that up just slightly for the first year, as we will be doing some, as Sanjay mentioned, there's only 28 units that need to be completely renovated out of 204. So we've bumped that slightly. And then year 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to come back down a little bit. Our other income, we've kept a conservative increase as well. And we do have some other things that we plan on adding, the storage lockers, and we've looked at the parcel package as well to increase that other income. We did the tax bill semi-recently came in end of September, so we know right off the bat that we're going to be saving taxes. I think it's somewhere in the realm of $35,000 to $45,000. It's going to come in under what we have projected for the first year, so that's a hard number that we're pretty excited about, that we came in quite a bit under. The insurance, I like to point out, because sometimes when I forget to talk about that, people think they got they're like, we got you on this. But that 161 insurance on the T12 was for the previous year. The current owner of this property renewed the insurance, I believe also in September, at $85,000 for the year. And since we are assuming the loan, we're going to stay with the same insurance company, and we were able to carry forward that reduction in the bill. Although we lost one of her reductions because we can't show loss runs, because obviously we're just taking over the property, so we don't have any loss runs to show. So we did lose that deduction, which is why it's a little bit higher than what she had. Than her insurance at $85,000, but we're excited to have that reduction as well. But if you look back at year 2, we're going to bump that back up to what we think, what she was paying last year. So again, just very conservative. We like surprises on the happy side, and so far that's what we've got for any changes that we've had to this. For the utilities, Sanjay had mentioned, we have a 6.25% reduction in the electric bill that the previous owner was paying taxes on, that our energy experts have told us we're not going to have to pay those taxes. So right off the bat, we're going to shave 6.25% off of the electric. And with our other LED lights and electricity efficiencies, we feel confident that we can bring that down another couple percentage points. Same thing with the water. We've gotten quotes from several different water savings companies, and we feel that that is a very conservative amount for us to bring that down. So we're just excited about the fact that we're able to have very conservative underwriting and that this deal still works. And I will say that when we I think if your deal doesn't have a story, it's probably not a deal. And I love the story of this deal. When we did go look at this deal back in February, we underwrote it, and we were not even close to what the seller was asking for it. And she took another offer and that fell through. And I think there might have even been a second offer, but they came back to us after at least one, potentially two offers fell through. And we were like right on the nose for our underwriting. So I'm very proud of it. And it's nice to have that verification when the deal comes back around to you. So we're excited, and we hope that you guys will join us on this investment.
Yeah, thank you, Amber, and thanks for mentioning that story. And we got the appraisal, right? So for our loan assumption bank, it's the servicer is Wells Fargo, wanted to do a full appraisal. So we got our appraisal, and we made the appraisal, but it's in the ballpark of our offer, our purchase price. We don't find out the full actual appraised value until the end. Just this the way they work. They don't share it until the closing, but at least we know we're good on our price and good from that perspective. Next slide. So just comparable from a rent perspective, you can see this property, I-35 is the line, and we are on the east side of it. And there's really not a decent apartment complex on the east side of 35. Most of the apartments are on the west side of 35. And you can see similar age. So we picked some of the apartments with the similar age, and within the half a mile to 2 mile radius. And we've got rents pretty competitive for 1 bedroom, but definitely there's a room on the 2 bedroom for us to go up as compared to Sola. I'd like to highlight the Nexus Urban Living is the one that Trevor and a couple of our other sponsor friends are part of. They own the deal, they're operating it. And that is a perfect comp for our property also, and shows the rents that they're getting that we are able to push to with their experience that we can utilize here. Next slide. So from an exit perspective, the table on the right-hand side kind of shows our projected NOI at the end of year 5. So from the slide that Amber talked about, towards the bottom right corner, a 6% cap rate comes up with a sale price of a little over, just under, 26.6 million. And then the loan, the proceeds get deducted. That gets deducted and gets distributed to the investors. The bottom right, there is the little sensitivity table. So, our exit cap rate is 6. We could potentially be exiting a little below 6, but if you were to go as high as 6.5 cap rate at our exit, even then we lose a couple $1 million on our exit, the sale price, assuming we reach that same NOI, but we still have upside So we're buying this at 17 million and exiting at 24 million. Even after all the expenses and everything, we have room even at 6.5 cap rate exit. So it's a little sensitivity to kind of keep everything in perspective. Next slide. So from a timing perspective, finally we had an agreed LOI back in September. We started the PSA and due diligence right away. We completed the due diligence in October. We got a survey back, we got our appraisal back the Thanksgiving week in November. So it took a while for the third-party reports to be ordered and sent out. But we had this deal as a 506B, which has a limited advertising, as you all know, until December 25th. And as of this week, it's a 506C launch where it's only open for accredited investor. And if anybody needs help on the definition for accredited investor and who qualifies and who is not, please reach out to us. But at a high level, you have to have at least 200,000 or more in annual gross income on your tax return, or $1 million or more of net worth. If you're with your spouse, then 300,000 in income, annual income, and the net worth requirement is still the same 1 million. So only accredited investors are allowed on this deal now, since we have published this publicly. And all the things are in place in terms of the loan approval. The Wells Fargo underwriter are doing the final write-up to submit to their credit committee and then submit to Fannie Mae for final approval. So we had a date for January 17th as the closing, but depending on that approval, the submission and the approval next week, when we get the approval after the submission next week, this may slip a little bit, but we're still expecting to close in January this year on this deal. So I think that's all the prepared material we have.
And I was going to skip down to the cost seg because we do have it in the full presentation that we don't want to take everybody's time for, because there was a question on that.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. So there is the cost seg slide that we have. We have the detail. We do have a quote from Madison Spec. That's the company we use for cost seg, and then they work with our CPA to do that. So I think this estimate was based on the 2023 close, which we had originally. Sorry, yes. Yeah, so our 2024 is slightly below 43%. I think our overall, the 2024 depreciation ends up being, we do get a little benefit off the CapEx, so it doesn't quite drop the full 20% off the 43, but it's in the high 30%, 30-ish% for the year one. And then we continue to claim further over the following years for the depreciation on this. Thank you, Trevor.
Awesome. So we'll stop sharing. And I know at one point Lewis had his hand up. So hopefully we can, if I can find him, I can unmute him. Raise your hand again. Sorry, all these people. Oh, there you are. Should be able to unmute yourself. There you go. Good to see you.
Hey, thank you. Likewise, good to see you. It took me a while to find where to raise the hand again too. So I'm still learning my way through Zoom. Hey, good evening, everyone. Hope you had a great Christmas. Happy holidays to all. Thank you for the invite to be here. I tell you, I'm new to this. I must have found you through Cardone recently, and somebody invited me. I don't remember who, because I've been through several of these different meetings over the past week and a half. I have to tell you, of all the meetings that I've seen, this is the most comprehensive, the best laid out, the most professionally looking, and the more transparent. I've seen information here that was shared that I have not seen in other meetings. of similar, of similar approach. So, um, full disclosure, I'm not accredited. I'm just starting my real estate investing journey. I want to definitely invest in multifamily, but being here, it's just like I've been taking notes of the things that terms and things that I wanted to ask. One of the things that you were sharing that caught my attention was the uh, the location. It seems like it looks from the picture you shared almost in the middle of an industrial or very much commercial area, and then all of the other apartments are on the west side of that highway, whatever that was. Um, so I'm thinking about probably from a tenant perspective, convenience of shopping and what is the crime rate in that side of town. I'm not familiar, obviously, where this is at, but it's just one of the many questions that came to mind. If you can probably comment on that, and also I'm in Florida, and electricity here is regulated, and I understand it's deregulated in Texas, and I wonder how. I don't know how that works, but I wonder how you can have any certainty on the electricity expenses and how you can manage that or forecast what it's going to be when I think it could be out of your control. So those were my two biggest things. Thanks for the time and the attention.
So
Yeah.
I can answer on the location because I know that area very well. I have a property on the west side that I'm a GP on. So the east side of the highway definitely has some industrial, but it does not have a very industrial feel. There are a lot of restaurants, a lot of motels, a lot of retail, a lot of different things. And then as soon as you go a few blocks either direction, up, because again, it's sort of the east west side is very residential and the east side is very commercial. And yes, it has a lot of warehousing, but those are our tenants. So they can actually walk to work, do different things. And that area is really, it's gentrifying a lot quicker because businesses are making investments in that area. Where on the residential side, the people aren't necessarily fixing up their houses or the apartments or other things. So that's the answer to that. And as far as we've been the team has been doing apartment investing about 20 years in Texas. And while we do have escalating electric rates, it's not the wild, wild west, even though we think we're the wild west in Texas, and it is very predictable. And it has been going up, but it's been stabilizing, and there are definitely restrictions on increases. So, and I know you booked a call with me today, but you used your wrong email. I even guessed at your email, Lewis Invest With or whatever, and sent you a note. So you need to give me your email so we can talk. Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, and Trevor, a couple things I can add here. On the location, as you said, and Lewis pointed out, it is an industrial location. And we don't have a lot of apartments surrounding us. There is that RV park around the corner on the other side. But what happens is if you got a cluster of apartments, then it becomes very hard for you to kind of control the market or do what you're going to do plan perspective. But if you're kind of the only property, it gives you some flexibility on changing. You can market to wherever you like and drive the traffic in. So we have that added benefit. At the same time, do we get traffic organically? Not always. We do have to have some marketing there. Also, it's a 204 units, so it's a big complex. Sponsorship team, we have talked about, for the maintenance team, getting them some golf carts if the budget allows and if the things go well, just so the maintenance team doesn't waste a lot of time going from one end to the other end of the property. It's a big property. My point being, once you're inside the property, it doesn't feel like an industrial location. It's a very homely feel, and that's what we plan on maintaining with the exterior repairs, the grass, the sign, and those things. So, you know, location wise, we're kind of working that to our advantage from that perspective.
John, you should be able to unmute yourself.
And yeah, sorry, just to address that electric contract question that Luis had also. Luis, you're right. Texas have areas that are deregulated and that are areas that are regulated. This property is in a regulated area, so we do not have a flexibility of switching the provider and negotiate the contract. But for all of our properties, we use a third-party company that reviews the contract, that knows the market, and they are the one who pointed out that, hey, look, you can take over the contract that the seller has. That's a good contract, and really we don't have an option. But there's an extra 6.5% that is currently being paid in Texas for the residential property. That tax does not need to be paid, and that's what we're going to shave off of the initially. So that 6.5% is already, like, we know we will get that from day one when we sign the contract. And then, you know, the exterior lights are not all of them are LED. So, you know, converting them to LED, some reduction in electricity usage itself, that we're hoping to reach that 10% reduction that we had on the underwrite. But Luis, welcome. Very good question as a newbie, and thanks for asking those questions. Very good. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, thanks, Trevor. I appreciate everybody doing this again. I've been on a couple different recordings with you all, and as the last Luis said, the professionalism from you all is superb. So first question, and I have a couple. Sanjay, you mentioned the supplemental funding component. Is that supplemental funding only there in case you haven't raised all of the capital? No?
No. So supplemental is baked into
Okay.
And it is preliminary approved by Fannie Mae.
Okay,
So
so
the
that's
advantage of it, John, just so you know, it's a lot less. 8.5% is a lot less than the 18% we have to pay investors. So it is cheaper money. So it's always better to get bank money. Bank is always your cheapest source of money. You know, investors, you want to give a good return, and we're projecting an 18%, and we can do that because we got that loan.
okay. The second piece is that, you know, on the pro forma, the projections over the 5-year hold period, is this cash flowing positive at the current rent rates that are established today with the you know, with the occupancy that you had?
Yeah. So that 5% that you see in the year one, that is the cash flow positive that we are projecting in year one. And since that year one 5% is below the 7%, that is the excess cash flow that we are projecting. So we're pretty confident of the year one cash flow, because the rents that we are using in that pro forma, like Amber said, seller is already close to getting those already, right? So T12 looks 12 months back, you know, 6 months, 9 months back, seller was getting whatever they were getting. If you look at the T1, T3, we're pretty close to that year one rent. So,
Okay.
So year one, you know, we take over, we do whatever the seller was doing and continue and implement those cost reductions. We should have that cash flow positive on year one.
Okay.
Good question. Good question.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that So Jason, go ahead. Whoop, should be able to, there you go.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Trevor.
Yeah.
Love this deal. The returns are looking great. I was wondering about the possible CapEx project management. You said that there may be a manager you'll have to bring from in-house, and I was wondering if you do have I guess it's a temporary position, and how do you decide who will be the project manager for the CapEx, and how long do you expect for that to last?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been going back and forth with the lender, which is Wells Fargo servicer and Fannie Mae, is they end up settling at 875,000 in escrow. So they're out of the 1.16 million capex, they're going to hold 875,000 in escrow, and the rest we would have in the bank account with us to use as we go ahead and use it. So the reason that's important is, from an operator perspective, those escrows are really painful because you got to do the work, fund it somehow, then put in for a draw, then they will have an inspector come out, and the inspector will say, well, I don't see this done this here, and have to coordinate that. Somebody has to meet personally there. So really, what the lender, what Fannie Mae has put in the plan is the first 18 months. There are activities in the first 18 months that they are requiring us to complete. So we foresee to have a project manager for the first 12, 15-ish months. TVG team actually has, between Vinny, Nacho, Jose, and they have another partner on their team, Tom, who is local in San Antonio. So we've got good presence. If it becomes painful and time consuming and the delays on those draws can really kill the plan, because if we won't have the cash, right? So that's where we're like, well, we're going to try to see we can do it amongst ourselves. So kind of pay it out of our asset management fees, kind of work it under that. But if that draws start to get delays and too much detail and paperwork, and then I just want to have a, $40,000 project manager for the year on site every day, and they're dedicated, available. And in 1 year, that 40,000, 42,000 is not a lot as you compare to percentage of the 1.16 that we have. So that's kind of the dynamic that we're playing with. We're going to try to avoid it, but with the draws, it may just be better for us to just have a person dedicated on site.
Right. It may be worth it in that
Yeah.
Scenario.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we may work through UAG. If UAG ends up doing some of that and overseeing for us, they're definitely going to charge us a few percentage point off the CapEx budget also, which is fair to them. They're going to spend extra time and staff and stuff. So it may go to them, or we may have a project manager separately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question.
And to add to that, the quicker we get our plan, the quicker we get the units renovated, the quicker we can raise rents. And then create those new units once we get closer to 100% occupancy. So there's time is of the essence, because you want to turn apartments and get new tenants in.
Right. Minimize your turnover expenses and your vacancy, your time of vacancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Very welcome. I have another question if you have time.
Yeah,
As far as
absolutely.
You mentioned monthly events, basically for tenant appreciation or show appreciation to the tenants. And I was wondering what kind of plans you have for that. What does that look like? I haven't heard anyone mention something like that. So that sounded interesting.
Yeah. So as you look at the annual calendar, there are few months where it's easy. So like Easter bunny stuff for March, back to school in August, something in the summer, and especially in summer, we work with some of the local nonprofits to kind of bring food or things like that. And then Thanksgiving and Christmas, those are easy months to pick a theme and have an event. And really, we may have small giveaways, talking to local vendors to have some gift cards, and just showing that appreciation and building the community feel, right? So, and that's really all there is to it. That we've done at other properties. Not only it lifts the morale of the on-site staff, tenants start to relate to it. And when that come the time for renewal, if there's that little nudge for them to say, well, yeah, I like to move. This other place is $25 cheaper, but I know people, I hang out with people, and I have a community. I'll just stay here, pay that extra 25, right? And that's what it pays off. So
Yeah, the good memories are worth it to your tenants,
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you're, definitely be looking out for stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can make them a lot of fun. So you can do Christmas decorating and give prizes to the best decorated units, Halloween decorating, Valentine cookies and on for Valentine's. There's a lot of things you can do that are not expensive that create a really good environment. And then every once in a while you might have a picnic, which yes, that could be more money, but you can also often get vendors that will come in exchange. So again, we have our property across the street, and Verizon's been a great partner, and they bring prizes and everything. And they signed up like 5 tenants on their cellular. And they were happy. They donated backpacks for all the school kids, and we just bought the supplies. Very, very easy things to do. And the company does it so they can get on site. If they can get on site, they can talk to 400 people about a cellular plan. It's a win-win.
Yeah, works out for everyone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the other property, they brought the YMCA to do swim lessons. Jasmine pointed that out.
we did, yeah, in Houston.
Yeah, but it creates that again, we want to make places better for people to live, and if you can do that, it's a win-win in the world, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you said these are the only building around that has the 3 bedrooms. So you've got basically more families there. It's kind of family oriented. So yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank
John,
you.
another question?
I do, Trevor. I was just thinking about the discussion around your exit strategy. Who, just in, kind of in general, who are you seeing as the buyer for this property, in 5 whatever years?
Yeah. So, it's a relatively a little bit bigger property. So we see as, an operator who's not quite, it's not an institutional buyer for this because it's too old for most of the institutional buyers. So really an operator who's kind of a couple years into their business cycle, they've got some experience, they're ready to get onto those bigger properties. And everything is a bell curve. Kind of my opinion, everything in life is a bell curve. So on that bell curve, that segment is not quite the peak of your bell curve, but it is still a pretty fat tail, as I would say. So we got quite a lot of operators. And on top of that, San Antonio is a market that we are very bullish, and we expect, especially that Northeast, to continue to develop more demand. So those operators will continue to come towards this direction.
Yeah, I wish I would have reached out last week. I was just on the west side of San Antonio for the week, and I looked at a couple other properties, and now I'm gonna have to make another trip back. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Good question, John.
Great city. Awesome. Any other questions? Because we're at the top of the hour. Really appreciate everybody coming out. It's been
Just
great.
just a reminder, I know everybody had a chance, but it just put in the link again, 2 things. One is, again, if you are interested in this deal, or even if you want to see other deals, you can join that link, invest.massive.capital, or use the QR code on Sanjay and my background. And the other one is, oh, that went to Luis, sorry. Let me resend that, guys. But the other one is, if you want to just book a call with any of the team, there's the second link. So just wanted everybody to have that chance again. I'll put it here. Sorry. There we go. There you go. So
Yeah, and to Mike's point, we didn't really go into the detail of us as Massive Capital a lot, but if you'd like to learn about Massive Capital, we got a really good team. Even if you're not quite ready to invest, or you're learning like Louis in this deal, or you're not accredited, reach out and learn more. Use this deal. This is a live active deal. Use this to learn. And go through a few deals if you're new, to see the type of questions, the information, and take notes for assessing the next deal before you invest. That's what I kind of did, right? So I invested back in my first deal as LP in 2015. And then I turned to be a sponsor and start syndicating towards end of 2016, 2017, and since then I've been doing this, and I've learned a lot. And every deal there is something unique, but there is some repeatability, some things that are there. So you use us for learning always.
Yeah, 5 years ago, I made my first investment with Sanjay, and full circle, I've been with Massive for a year now, and I've passively invested in 20 syndications, and now I'm a general partner on 11, and 8 of those are Massive Capital. So, yeah, and I've learned a lot. You learn a lot.